Nigeria officially floats Naira as investors and exporters' rate hits 755 Naira per dollar. Senate President Godswill Akpabio promises to promote green tech, oil and gas expansion. Plus, oil rises as market awaits the Fed interest rate decision. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us at this time, and it is that time we talk business, and we start with the news that the Naira is officially floated after years of sticking with a hard peg that spooked investors and drained dollars from the economy. Reports say a market rate is now based on a willing buyer and a willing seller, and currently being quoted by banks who sent out emails to some customers confirming the change. Meanwhile, Nigeria deposited its instrument of acceptance for the agreement on fishery subsidies on 12 June, making it the second African World Trade Organization member to do so. Ambassador Adamu Mohamed Abdul Hamid presented Nigeria's instrument of acceptance to Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in Geneva, Switzerland. Acceptances from 2/3 of WTO members are needed for the agreement to come into effect.
Nigeria is overwhelmed with this notification today because the expectation by every member of the WTO is to ratify its instrument of ratification, so that by the time we get up to 2/3, the implementation of the agreement could commence. Nigeria is happy to be 9 of the members to ratify and deposit the instrument of the ratification. And we hope the second phase will also be addressed and will be concluded on or before the MC13. So we call on all members to expedite action to ratify the instrument so that we can put it behind us.
I'm particularly pleased to receive this instrument of ratification. I'm sure everybody will know why. First of all, Nigeria is the second African member to ratify, so I think this really sets a good example. It's exciting. I think for Nigeria, there is about $70 million lost in IUU fishing. So ratifying this goes a step towards helping take care of this problem, which is why the members made this agreement in the first place. I thank the ambassador for urging all members to ratify as quickly as possible. I also want to say a special word of thanks to the Nigerian authorities, to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, to the Ministry of Justice, to the Presidency for the expeditious way in which they handled this agreement. And above all, I want to thank the ambassador and his staff for the extra special efforts they put in trying to get this done. It's a very proud day, and I'm very much looking forward to also getting the other ratifications from the African countries, as well as the membership at large.
And the Borno State government has procured 100 trucks load of blended fertilizer for the 2023 farming season for onward distribution to farmers. Governor Babagana Umar Zulum announced this on an inspection with a team from the Nigerian Institution of Agricultural Engineers, led by its leader, Professor Akindele Folarin Alongi Mohammed. Goni reports.
The 312 tractors and same number of harrows and plows are part of the state-of-the-art agricultural mechanization equipment that include 1,100 tractors, hundreds of combine harvesters, rice mills and planters, among others, procured by the Borno State government to transform the agricultural sector. Under the arrangement, Each of the 312 wards of the state is getting one tractor at 50% discount and payable within 3 to 5 years. 100 truckloads of blended compound fertilizers are sold to farmers at 25% discount of the actual market price to encourage intensive farming activities in all resettled agrarian communities. Beneficiaries of the farm inputs and the Metropolitan Caretaker Chairman Ali Bolori say sales and distribution of the fertilizers was timely now that farming activities have picked up in earnest, and thank Borno State government for the timely intervention.
Fertilizers should be distributed to deserving farmers. But the tractors will never be sold to anybody. The tractors will not be allowed to leave, to go outside Borno State. What we want to encourage is ownership, because we have seen hundreds of tractors were distributed in Borno State and they are nowhere to be found.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Bala Magana, highlighted achievements recorded by the Zulum administration in the agricultural sector, urging the governor to maintain the tempo. In Maiduguri, Mohamed Goni.
African countries have been urged to take responsibility for green energy projects locally and regionally. This was at the inaugural Bloomberg New Economy Gateway Africa event in Morocco. Participants, including those involved in panel sessions, highlighted the need for African countries to take responsibility for green energy projects at both local and regional levels, while seeking support from the global community as a whole. And consensus among the participants is that increasing green investment in Africa is crucial and should be a shared responsibility. Also, Nigeria's newly appointed Senate President Godswill Akpabio has pledged to promote green technologies alongside the expansion of the country's oil and gas sector. He made this commitment in his acceptance speech on the floor of the Senate after assuming leadership of the upper chamber of the National Assembly. Senator Akpabio emphasized the notion of government continuity, stating that the Senate will build upon the commendable achievements of the previous 9th Senate, led by Senator Ahmed Lawan. He further expressed the Senate's dedication to strengthening the legislative space and advancing its role in Nigeria's development. A new chapter has begun on the Nigerian political scene with the recent presidential inauguration and just yesterday, the inauguration of the 10th Assembly of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. This has, however, set the pace for the Nigerian economy. Now, in recognition of the role the energy industry will play in the development of the Nigerian economy, the federal government has assured Nigerians of plans to unveil a grand plan that will revolutionize the green tech sector and the nation's economy. That is partly the focus of our conversation, as we also take a look at some other policy statements that have affected the market so far. And I have joining me Aliu Elias. He is an economic analyst. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Mr. Elias, so much has happened in our economy, talking about markets responding to policy statements, starting from the very inaugural speech of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where he mentioned that oil subsidy is not being budgeted for in this year's budget cycle. And the next day, the market responded to it. And we also saw the stock market responding positively to the new government. And just yesterday, the stock market also responded positively to some reforms that are ongoing in the financial sector, talking about an increase like a 15-year high. We've never had it this good in recent years. And again, we also woke up today to get to hear that the I&E window, talking about Forex, is about to be unified as promised by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What does all of this say to you, and where are we heading to?
It's gladdening to hear all this positive information. Like I always say, there is always interplay between politics and economy. So whoever man the political head of the nation also have effect on the economic side of it. Looking at the indices and the economic indices that are positive, it's a good one, and it will also attract foreign direct investment. It will also bring confidence into the economy of Nigeria, as many organizations or many industries are looking at all this before they can invest. But to really cap this all, I think we need to work on our level of lending rate, interest rate. The NPR is 18.5%. So we are hoping that with all this push, maybe going forward, the lending rate will reduce as expected, because if it's not reduced, most manufacturing sector that we expect them to boost the economy by creating economic activities and also creating job availability may find it difficult to actually operate. So we expect the interest rate to reduce. I think government should look into that as well, as that will help. And concerning the stock market, it is expected that it is more of body language, because once direction of the economy is being identified, people want to invest, and people are also scared of policy summons. So they are looking at the body language of the government towards the economy before they can come and invest the more. On a positive note, I think this is a good one for Nigeria.
Okay, with the events that took place yesterday, talking about the inauguration of the leadership of the National Assembly, we had the leaders commit to economic development, talking about riding on the promises of the president. That is to say, it seems from what we hear that the National Assembly is now on the same page with the executive arm of government. What should we expect in the economic circles, with a lot of suggestions that are coming in from the diversification of the economy to non-oil and also boosting oil production?
It is a fact that when we have the right legislative arm in a country, it's a good one for the country. I will let you know that the impact of legislation on, or legislatures rather, on the economy is very, very big. That if it's well managed and they are doing their work properly, it will reflect in the economy. Let's just look at appropriation. But definitely, the executive will prepare budget and take it to the legislature. But the legislature have the right to tickle and work on that thing. Example of, if you look at the last, this current budget, the President Buhari actually proposed 20.5 or so to the legislature, but they increased it from that with about 1.3 trillion. So that means they have the capacity to actually look at the budget. And if you look at that, they even increased the budget of the NPC, the budget of INEC, the education and health. That means they have the capacity to do. And another thing is that they also have the oversight capacity, because we need to manage waste. We could always look at waste, incompetency in the economy as well. These are even corruption. It is them that can do that oversight and identify all these challenges. So if we have the right legislature, I think they will do more. If you also look at the ways and means that recently passed. If you look at the past administration, about 23 trillion was gotten without proper approval, and the legislature, they react positively, moving the percentage of revenue to what they can get in ways and means from 5% to 15%. Now that means they are proactive. So I'm wishing and hoping this new legislature will now take from that level and move ahead to give positive legislation, positive oversight, positive appropriation to Nigeria that will benefit the generality of Nigeria. So if we have the right to, and my own challenge is that we'll have more new entrants into the National Assembly. So I hope they will quickly get to learn from their people that are ranking members, and by so doing come together. And the interesting thing is that we also have about 8 political parties, which is unprecedented now. So we expect them to bring their diversity together to make Nigeria better. That's the expectation.
Okay, still talking about the National Assembly, we understand that we just have 20% that are returning now. We have 80% that are entirely new. And the 9th Assemblies are judged to be the best so far in terms of passage of bills into law. Not just the number, but also the quality of bills. And for the economy, we pride to say that assembly actually did well in terms of giving us karma as a law, as well as the petroleum sharing contract formula, as well as the PIA that we are talking about. With all these reforms that we've had in the oil and gas industry, do you see more revenues coming in this administration for the financing of the desired infrastructure that is needed to move Nigeria from this level to the next?
All right. One of the positive part of the last administration is that they have made sure, because of the two recession we experienced and COVID-19, we have been exposed to a lot of things. The only thing that I want to advise is that we need to generate more revenue. So this National Assembly should look at when Nigeria can generate revenue and invest more into that, because we cannot take it away from the Ninth Assembly, perform exceedingly well in terms of bills, bringing out bills, and in fact, they even follow some execution as well. So we want, this is now a challenge to 10th Assembly. They cannot do less at this point in time. And we have more vibrant people also in this assembly, because it's a combination of different political parties, whereby we expect all of them not to be rubber stamp like they usually say, to also exercise their right as expected and do their oversight and correct appropriation that will benefit the generality of Nigeria. So I think it's a big challenge for them. We must expand our revenue in Nigeria, because if we don't get more revenue, it simply means we will not get the expected infrastructure as expected. Though with the removal of fuel subsidy now, I think we have more, but we have to expand more to benefit Nigerians.
Well, talking about expanding sources of revenue, we hear from the grapevines that there are some reforms that are still ongoing in the oil and gas sector of the economy, where some assets might just be laid off into the market to generate more revenue. But that aside, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, during his campaign, electioneering campaign, actually promised that he was going to initiate a program more like a loan scheme where students in tertiary institutions can actually access loans to go through school, that they won't have reason to drop off school or to say they don't have money to finance their academics. And we've also had the announcement, that bill was signed into law just a few days ago, and we also hear there is a 1 billion naira shared seed capital. Now, where would these sources, where would this monies come into, from where would this monies come into this port? We hear that there's going to be 1% from FIRS net, then oil and gas, and solid minerals. How do you see this policy? Many say it's a welcome development. I say it's an excellent one. What do you say?
Well, I think every country that want to show that they want development, it starts from education. So there's no amount of money you can expend on Nigerians in terms of getting more education that you will think is too much. We need to do more. If you look at even the percentage of our budget compared to a global standard, it's quite very, very low. So it's a laudable one, and we appreciate it. Perhaps he has also practiced that in Lagos, and I think it's paying off. So what I only think is that we should get where we'll get the source from. Like he said, FIRS, NNPC, these are a better way of getting, but I think getting the money is not the problem. Just identify the source. Like I said, there is a revenue gap. We only need to identify those revenue gap, take advantage of it, and channel it to this education. So perhaps I also want to go further to advise Mr. President that apart from general education, I think we should also prioritize technology-related education. We are in the digital world now, so if there could be an incentive in that area too, that would drive more Nigerians into that area, and that will, you can look at our fintech now; it's moving very fine, employing. In fact, it is envy of global community in terms of our fintech. So we can invest more in that to deepen that, and that will reflect in the generality of the well-being of Nigeria. So for me, it's a welcome development. The source is that we should identify some gaps. Having identified 1% from FIRS and other sources, we should also identify revenue gap. Like we always talk about tax net. We are not saying increase tax. No, identify people that are not in the tax net and get this from there and channel it to these appropriate quotas. Because education, health, all the social infrastructure are very key to development in every country.
And like the #1 revenue collector in the country will say, it's not about introducing a new tax or just expanding the tax net, but harmonizing tax from a central point is something that will bring in more money into the purse. Thank you so very much, Ali Williams, for sharing your thoughts with us at this point in time. We'd love to have you again and again and again going forward.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on, oil prices rose on Wednesday as investors awaited the outcome of the U.S. Federal Reserve's June meeting after bullish oil demand growth forecast from the International Energy Agency and OPEC. Brent crude futures were up 80 cents at $75.09 a barrel. US West Texas Intermediate crude was up 70 cents at $70.12. And gold prices edged higher on Wednesday on expectations of the interest rate pause at the Federal Reserve's policy meeting, concluding later in the day, while a softer dollar also boosted bullion. Let's now see how other commodities are trading. European stocks higher ahead of latest Fed decision. UK GDP growth boosts sentiment. Let's now join Nneka Oko for global market update.
Global stocks climbed on Wednesday, with markets positioned for Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to announce a pause in the U.S. Central Bank's interest rate hiking campaign. In Europe, markets were higher. The DAX in Germany was 0.48% up, with UK FTSE also rising 0.37% and the French CAC advanced 0.7%. Asia-Pacific markets were mixed, as the inflation in the US rose at a 4% annual rate in May, to close at 33,502.42, recording its fifth straight session of gains, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell 0.58% and the Shanghai Composite down 0.14%. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 futures traded higher in early trading, with investors looking ahead to the Federal Reserve's policy decision. The S&P 500 futures climbed 0.16%, Nasdaq 100 futures rose by 0.2%, while futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 45 points. Markets in Africa were mixed this Wednesday. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 rose 0.14%. Namibia's overall index also gained 0.21%, while others like Tunisia's Tone Index and Kenya's Nairobi All Share were in negative territory.
And back home, it was a positive close for the Nigerian equities market this Wednesday as the All Share Index advanced to 59,000.